Welcome to the Undefeated YouTube. Special guest today, all the way from England. What part of England?
Manchester.
Manchester, England. We have the fittest man in the world, or the fastest man I've ever seen run around a track, Mr. Jake DEARDEN. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. And I just wanted to say thank you for this week. You've hosted us the best. Myself, my team, even my friends that are here. You've been like family, and I appreciate it. What a gym as well. If you're ever in Melbourne, please come to this gym because I've not seen a gym like it.
Thank you so much, brother. And like I've said to you guys all along, we really wanted to, building this gym, T and I, my wife, we know how much fitness, first of all, it saved me. Bodybuilding saved me originally, but fitness in general saved me. And we know how much it means to people like us who have that mindset. And so we wanted to make sure that when people come to Undefeated, they visit our place, they really feel like family. And to really feel like this is a second home or a home away from home. So yeah, welcome. And I hope you have felt that that warmth and that family feeling when you're here. And you're always welcome, obviously, when you're in Melbourne. And if you're a friend of Jake's, come down, drop his name, and we'll look after you as well if you're ever traveling through Melbourne. But welcome to Melbourne. It's your first time here?
Yeah, first time to Australia.
Okay, yeah.
I don't want to leave.
It's actually pretty similar. I've heard a lot of the guys say, especially where we are down here in Cremorne, South Yarra, it's like little Manchester. It's like being back home almost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like Manchester, but a little bit cleaner. The weather's a little bit better.
Okay.
But it's still like the cool city that Manchester is, just on the other side of the planet.
Nice.
Cool. And the people are great. People are very similar. Everyone's down to earth.
Next time we'll come visit Manchester, that's for sure. We'll come visit over there. And maybe chase down a Hyrox. We'll see. I've heard the Manchester Hyrox is special as well.
Yeah. To be fair, it's always a sellout event, but the atmosphere is pretty much unmatched. I feel like just the fitness culture up north and that group training, which then carries over to a Hyrox, is just the demand's so much in the north of England. Everyone's getting after it, so it's cool.
Really cool.
Yeah, it's infectious.
And just touching on Hyrox, obviously, you are over here for the Melbourne Hyrox, the first major I think that Australia's had.
Yeah, first major Australia's had. We've got the Elite 15 on the Friday night, the singles, and then Elite 15 doubles on the Saturday night. And super excited. How are you feeling for your race?
Well, part of this is over the past 6 weeks, I've sort of made the switch from obviously being an IFBB pro, open, weighing 140 kilos. I've made the switch over to Hyrox, hybrid training, more functional fitness, but specifically Hyrox. And we'll talk a little bit about why it was Hyrox that sort of got me or helped me make that switch. It was one of the catalysts. Actually, yourself and Rep were 24/7. We're big in that. But
give us some stats before we move on. Give us some stats about like what you've done over the last kind of like 6 weeks, because there's some pretty incredible things that you've done and you've managed. Even just like a physique transformation.
Yeah, and look, we'll try and throw a little physique transformation up on the tube here as well. But essentially, the last 6 weeks, I've dropped close to 30 kilos of weight. Wow. I've gone from never having run more than a kilometre before in my life to running 12Ks on Sunday just gone. We did a speed session at the track yesterday, which was my first time on a track, and like just honestly felt electric. But I've dropped 30 kilos. I've increased my training output and cardio probably 4 times, which has been hard with the calorie drop as well to try and get the weight off. And the reason why I've sort of got the weight off is because obviously changed a lot of the protocols and the things that I used to do to be an IFBB pro bodybuilder. And let's be real, like to be an open bodybuilder takes a lot of eating, a lot of trying to be really heavy, and a lot of that sort of has a lot of health risk and health and negative associations on the heart. And so for me, making those changes has been huge in terms of, I suppose, the different approach, dropping the food back, going from 8,000 calories a day down to 4,000 calories a day. 4,000 might sound like a lot to a lot of people out there, but it's literally half the food I was eating, and my output's gone out by by probably 3/4x what it was, to try and keep it, especially with the running and the cardio, which is so demanding. So it's been challenging, but like I'm one of those people where I love the challenge, and I love it being hard. And only from a standpoint of, I was always told as when I wanted to be a bodybuilder, you'll never be a bodybuilder, give up, don't try. You're just a fat kid. And sort of that inspired me and fueled me to be like, well, if it's going to be hard, great. Like, bring it on. I love it. And so it's been the same with sort of Hyrox, where we get some feedback where most has been super positive. But making that switch over, due to a lot of, like I said, just wanting to be healthier in general, not having to eat as much, not having to put as much pressure on my heart. We've got 3 kids, my wife and I. I want to be there long term for them. So thinking more like, how can I remain competitive? Because I still have a competitive athlete mindset. How can I remain competitive, but then put that, I suppose, effort and discipline and into a different pursuit. And so that's half the reason why sort of the whole switch for Hyrox came about. But in the past 6 weeks, it's been amazing, the changes. My knees and adductors aren't too happy with the increasing in volume from running, just different, I suppose, strain the ligaments and tendons. But it's been amazing. It's been amazing to experience the change, and I've just gone head on. I could have picked the Hyrox next year to do and just eased into it a bit more, but I thought, if I'm going to do it, I'm just going to launch straight in. And so Melbourne, in my own backyard, why not jump on board? So I'm doing Friday on the single opens, and then doing the pro doubles on the Saturday. So I'll be competing Friday and Saturday, so two Hyroxes in the same weekend in Melbourne. And for me, I'm just at this stage with the comp specific, I just want to put a time out there, get some feedback, get the feeling of it, and then improve. That's what it's about for me, and I'm super pumped. I'm super pumped for sure to be out there and to watching you guys on the track yesterday and having you guys through the gym the last couple of days has been amazing to see your work ethic. And I'm going to offend some bodybuilders out there, but 100% Hyrox training is harder than bodybuilding. Like, I think we were saying before, with bodybuilding, it's like you can sort of, actually I was saying to Mark, with bodybuilding, it's like you sort of got to do the least amount to grow the most. And if you can do that for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, then you're going to have more muscle. And if you have more muscle, then potentially you'll be a better bodybuilder. But with Hyrox, it's kind of different, where it's like, the output and the toughness of what it takes to have that work ethic and that drive and that to do the workouts and to do the cardio and to keep up with all that is incredible. And 100% I think it's harder than bodybuilding, for sure. I know, because I've done both. It's only been 6 weeks with Hyrox, but like I can honestly say that Hyrox is 100% harder in terms of, I suppose, the what it requires than bodybuilding, if that makes sense. But yeah, I've been super excited to get out there Friday and Saturday in 2 days' time and give it a go. But and obviously speaking more to that, and not to take up too much of the time, but it's taken me probably over the past 18 months I've been thinking about making a switch. Okay. And a lot of it's come from actually watching yourself, Jake. So big thanks to you to having that positive influence on my life. My wife will thank you as well, my kids, because I know that it's extended my life for sure, making the switch from bodybuilding to Hyrox, but making that switch has come down a lot to seeing you and also representing 24/7 and that lifestyle. I think that has been sort of that you guys push out there as well. It's really inspiring. It's addictive. It's infecting in the best possible way. And so watching the whole transformation of, like you said, the way that Hyrox has taken off in terms of its popularity and people getting behind it, group fitness, hybrid, and the way that makes you feel has been amazing to experience and to witness. And that sort of heavily influenced me to make that switch. So thank you. for having an impact you probably never thought that you did, but it's definitely been felt here for me, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
No,
But,
I'm absolutely mind blown and honored. My question to you is, how do you find, I suppose, being more in a group environment with Hyrox, I suppose, than like bodybuilding? But bodybuilding is very much a solo sport. I know you, like at both levels, you compete solo, but and you can compete solo in both bodybuilding and Hyrox. How have you found training with other people and being more social with your training sessions for Hyrox than you was when you was bodybuilding? Or have you created kind of like a community in here where you never feel like you're training on your own if you're bodybuilding or if you're Hyroxing?
I think that at Undefeated especially, we definitely created a community with bodybuilding that when you were here training, you didn't feel like you were by yourself anyway. So we definitely had that sort of very community aspect regardless. But it's still been 10x now with the whole Hyrox, I suppose, influence coming through and group fitness itself. Like we never set this gym up originally to have group classes and that sort of stuff, but we found that like we quickly made that switch. Again, I think that obviously because from where I was sort of sitting and how I was feeling with my training as well, I started to move that way. So naturally, a lot of the gym's direction moved that way also. And but bodybuilding can be heavily toxic. Like, you know, you are training by yourself, you know, it's a very solo sport. And even at the top levels, it's like people are very, you know, very egocentric, ego driven. Whereas I found with the Hyrox community, hybrid community, it's been a lot more that group sort of, you know, I suppose involvement, training, uplifting, motivating, inspiring, and less ego driven. So it's been really refreshing, to be honest, to experience that side of it, as opposed to what I was used to with bodybuilding, for sure.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah. So what weight are you now?
So now I'm sitting at 111.
111.
Yeah.
So 111.
I was 141 6 weeks ago.
And it's crazy to think yesterday we were running around the track and you was holding 4 minute 30, 420s kilometers, that is.
You were running 320.
But to be running that at the weight that you are with, like you say, 6 weeks of running experience, if that, like, is insane. Where do you see yourself going with Hyrox? Like, obviously this week is to get scores on the doors.
A time. Yeah.
A time. After that, is it just purely to beat that time? Are you looking at another Hyrox that you're going to do in the future? Are you going to kind of like stick with it? Or are you going to expand out into other hybrid competitions?
I have at this stage anyway, no real interest in running like a marathon. Mm-hmm. It's just not something that I feel. Never say never, but for now it's like, but I would love to be, you know, and I know I say this like understanding the seriousness of it, but I would love to be the first IFBB pro to Elite 15 in some degree, whether it's doubles, solo, whatever else. That would be amazing. And I think it's important in any form of pursuit in life to have goals. You know, and the goal should scare you. The goal should be huge. I'm not afraid of hard work, which is why I'm not arrogant at all, but I'm confident in the fact that I can work hard. And so where that takes me, who knows, we'll see. But I don't think there's anything wrong with having a goal of saying, hey, I want to be Elite 15, but then, like, you know, getting close or qualifying for a world championship in an open, or, you know, whatever the case may be. But I'd like to see how far I can take it. That's for sure. You know, and I know that hard work pays off always, and so I'm willing to work hard and to have fun along the way. That's for sure. But in terms of I'm looking at New Zealand next, looking at Brisbane in April next year. Then actually looking at seriously coming over with John and the crew he's going to let me know some good comps in Europe and England to take off, and we'll take the family, we'll experience the world, we'll travel, we'll compete, and make memories. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, that is, and you've just touched on that. Like for me, like it's a great excuse to travel, going to a Hyrox. Like I always like push people to do as many Hyroxes in different countries that they've never been to before, because not only do you get to race and you get to experience and meet new people whilst racing, but you also get to experience the culture of the new city. No, that's cool. That's cool. And
I think with Hyrox as well, it's like, because it's so big, like when we used to travel for like bodybuilding, it's still such a niche, like such a small community itself. Whereas like Hyrox is huge. Like, you know, you get in activations, run clubs. The run clubs, there's never been as many run clubs in Melbourne as well there has been this last week, because of obviously Hyrox is here, and it's a huge part of sort of getting people together and moving and feeling and stuff. So I think that traveling with Hyrox is super fun, because like the energy that the city comes alive with during Hyrox weekend, it's infectious.
no, it is cool. And moving back onto kind of like your goals, like I'm a huge fan of, like you said, having a goal that does scare you, and having a goal that you genuinely don't know is going to happen or not. Like, if you throw it out there, then the worst that can happen is you get a PB. Like, you might not hit your initial goal, but if you get 3/4 of the way there or 9/10 of the way there, you'd be pretty happy. And for me, that's what it's all about. So I think there's a saying, is it like aim for, shoot for the stars, land on the moon, or something like that? But so I've definitely messed that one up. But yeah, it's the whole fact of like having something that scares you, that you makes you put your all into, and you've got to give 100% chance. And then even then, it's still a 50-50 whether you're going to achieve it, is something that I'm a massive fan on. And that's why I love what you just said there. You know, going from pro bodybuilder and trying to get into the Elite 15, qualifying for the World Champs, I think that's a great goal. And like I say, it's going to be a couple of years, but it's going to be a couple of years in the making. And since I've been around you and known you properly these last couple of days, I've seen how hard you work with your training, but also your lifestyle. And you're in here at 5 a.m. You're up even earlier. You're not leaving until it closes late at night. You're constantly here working, whether it's, you know, hosting people, whether it's in the gym training, whether it's just managing this place. And there's not many people that I've come across, and I've met quite a few people now that have the same work ethic as you. So, you know, they do say hard work beats talent. And I think you genuinely are just one of them people that will make it happen.
I appreciate that. And like I said, I'm definitely not afraid of failure. In fact, what made me a good bodybuilder, or semi-decent bodybuilder, was the fact that like I would push until failure, past failure, and that sort of served me well in that aspect. But I've never been afraid of failure. You know, the whole undefeated mindset is never lose. We win or we learn. And so, you know, we only lose when we stop trying. And if you never stop, then no one can stop you. It's sort of the philosophy behind as well. And like you said, you know, if you set those goals high, and just being 1% better than yesterday is always the goal, regardless. And then, yes, we push for more, we push for more, we push for more. But one thing from letting go of bodybuilding was bodybuilding can be because you're obsessed with the way you look. Okay, so everything in bodybuilding is based upon the aesthetics. And so you wake up every day with the mindset of, okay, how can I look better today, right? Which to some degree, a little shallow, but also it's like it can be really, there's certain elements of bodybuilding which you can't change, like, you know, your hip structure, clavicle structure, you know, how thick your skin is in some areas, or where you hold fat compared to others. And so it can become really waking up with the whole aspect of being obsessed with how you look can actually become quite debilitating, and it's never enough. What I mean by that is, like, you can look great, like you look amazing. I have even clients online where I'm like, they look incredible, but every day they wake up, oh, I feel fat, I feel this, I feel, you know, always a negative aspect. And then what happens with that is that negative aspect then becomes, they externalize that onto their friends and family and loved ones. And they go, well, why are you even doing this thing called bodybuilding? Because you're miserable the whole time. Do you know what I mean? And they don't enjoy it, because then you don't have fun, and it becomes a negative cycle, is what we find. not with everyone, but with a lot. And so what's been really positive is letting go of bodybuilding, which was really hard because it was the
Yeah, I was going to ask, how did you find that? Like, how are you finding even just like this initial stage of dropping that weight? Was it hard to look in the mirror, like wake up, look in the mirror every day and thinking, I'm smaller than I was yesterday?
Well, it's been 6 weeks, but like I said before, it's been 18 months of me really fighting that in my head, letting go of the identity of, you know, if I'm not big, then like, what am I? Who am I? Will I still have clients? You know, will people still want me to be inspired by me, or, you know, whatever else? Will my kids look at me the same way? You know, things like that as well, because it becomes your identity. But like I said, it's been really refreshing to let go of that. And now I can honestly say, like, I still care about how I look in terms of, like, you know, aesthetics wise, but I think that, like, the good thing about like Hyrox and what we do is, like, it's a byproduct of being a really good athlete is the fact that, like, you'll look good anyway. So it just hand in hand, it happens with each other.
What was by the way, what was the reality? So in your head, you was thinking, are my kids going to think I'm as cool? Or, you know, are my clients going to still love me or want to train with me because I'm a little bit smaller? Like, you're having them worries in your head. What's the actual reality when it happens?
Yeah, so the reality of now is, like, I feel better than ever. I feel like I haven't got the mindset of, oh, if I don't look a certain way, then, like, people won't want me. Yeah. And so for that, I'm a happier person. And then that's probably more attractive to clients, my family, you know. And then also I don't externalize that negativity of being so obsessed with how I look. And so that creates a better atmosphere, again, at home, with the family, in the gym. So the reality is it's so much better. The reality is, you know, letting go of, I suppose, the shallowness sometimes of what bodybuilding can be. It releases you inside. And, like, you know, this is gonna sound really dumb it might sound dumb, but, like, if you wake up in the morning as a bodybuilder and you're bloated, the worst day in the world. It's like, it's one day. You're not getting on stage that day, but it's one day where you feel bloated and it's the worst day in the world. Whereas now, like, oh well, like, you know, doesn't really matter. I'll go for a run and I'm chilled. Do you know what I mean? It's a much better feeling. But for the first time in, like I said, my life, for what I've known in my life for the last 15 years, waking up and sort of not being so obsessed with how I look has led me to be a lot more relaxed, a lot more calm, a lot more clearer, focused in my head. And then more so, rather than the goal now being, okay, look better, it's, well, what am I capable of? Yeah, how can I perform better? And which is I think it's a much, well, for me anyway, since I've made that decision and let go of that feeling, it's created a lot more calm inside the head. I feel more focused in business, more focused with my family.
Give you more energy. It's probably like released, like, if you're constantly thinking about how you look all the time, and like you say, if you're bloated, if you're not, that's taking up energy. That's taking up thinking space. And now that you've relieved that, you can have more time and more focus on business.
And like we said before, it's like thinking of, oh, if I'm not big, then will people want me to coach them, or, you know, will they inspire them? And the reality is, because I'm clearer focused, it's like I'm actually a better coach, because now I can make decisions based on, I can put energy into that area rather than all this negative energy. Like, for instance, if I wake up and I'm bloated, I feel down, negative, like, you can't help as a human that to then
Rubs
affect
off,
onto everything that you do. And
or if you're coaching someone and you're one-to-one personal training someone
on the floor,
and in the back of your mind you're thinking, I hope after this session I'll look in the mirror and I'm not bloated, or like you're constantly thinking about something on your mind and you can't be present in the moment, even if you might even just like miss reps or miss, like, you know, you're not focused on them, you're focused on yourself.
My first ever PT in a gym, Steve Fatale, I love the guy, but he was a bodybuilder, and I remember he was training me in the gym, and I was overweight. So I started off 140 kilos fat. I got down to 78 kilos, lost weight, and then yo-yoed, and then became a bodybuilder. And so the story goes. But I came from being fat as a kid, heavily asthmatic, and all these things. Anyway, when he was training in the gym, he would literally be more interested in flexing his arm in the mirror, trying to catch his tricep at the right angle. When he picked up a plate to load it, he checked how his tricep looked when he was holding the plate in the mirror, rather than load the plate. So I remember seeing that, and it's funny now. I think back to that 15 years ago. And I think like, wow, like it was so, even for him back then, it hasn't changed. Bodybuilding itself hasn't moved on. And that affected, he wasn't the best PT he could be because he was so obsessed with how he looked in the mirror. And so he would, want to look a certain way, and he would, anyway, it affected the way. And so I imagine that would be the same with me. And the thing is, we don't know when we're in the moment. Yeah, we're just acting. But now, stepping back from that, I can definitely see it. And I'm definitely, I'm grateful for now the hindsight and the, I suppose the broader vision to make the decision when I did. At 35 years old, 36 years old, it's like I still have time to achieve some things, if that makes sense, rather than holding on to the 5 years, 10 years, and then being too late and thinking, well, what could have been, if that makes sense. So I'm thankful and blessed that I have a supportive wife who supported me in that decision, and I was able to make that decision then and to move away from it with time and see what's next. Super excited.
Yeah, it's cool. It's really cool.
And I think that some people who are watching this for the first time, Jake, not to make it all about me, but some people who are watching this channel, my channel, maybe don't know what Hyrox is.
Okay.
So maybe if you want to give us a little background as to how you started in the sport, what Hyrox is, and and who are you currently in the Hyrox world?
Okay, so we'll start off what Hyrox is. So Hyrox is a fitness race. That's what it's classed as.
It literally is a race.
And it started in 2017. And the whole idea of the race is it's the same every time. Like a marathon is 26.2 miles. The Hyrox is a race that doesn't change, where you look at CrossFit, the workouts change all the time. It's completely different. You've got to train everything and for anything. Whereas Hyrox, you have 8 movements and you have a run in between each movement, or 8 stations, we say. So it starts off, we've got a 1 kilometer run, then we've got a station, and then we've got that 8 times through, and the stations change every time. So there's ski, there's sled push, there's sled pull, there's burpees, there's row, there's farmer's carry, there's lunges, and then there's wall balls. So it finishes off with 100 wall balls. So it's quite taxing. It involves running and strength, which is kind of why it's blown up, in my opinion, because before Hyrox, yes, there was hybrid training. People started to kind of lift weights and run. But I don't know about you, but like 10 years ago, you'd be in the gym, and if someone said, oh, they're going running after lifting weights, you'd say, you're an idiot. You'd say, you're cancelling out your gains. Like, we 100%. Do not run and lift weights. It was, you do one or the other, you become a runner or you become good at lifting, and that's it. And people that do both are pretty stupid, unless you're playing a team sport like rugby or something like that.
That's more sports specific.
Yeah, very sports specific. So, but Hyrox came along and it proved to people that you can train strength and also be decent at running. And the whole concept of you can actually have this athletic physique that isn't too skinny, but you can also run and you can lift weights. And it's very much lower body dominant, which that means that it's kind of, it appeals to everyone. It appeals to males because it's very, very competitive, but it also appeals to females because they're not getting really, really jacked, and they can still look very aesthetically pleasing and feminine, if that makes sense. Like, whereas you look at all the sports and you might say, there's other sports in the world where you might say a female has to look more masculine to be good at it, for example.
Yeah, bodybuilding and CrossFit, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So that's why I think it appeals, and it actually has more females competing than males, which is pretty mad. I think it's 52% to 48% males. So that just combines everyone, and that's why, in my opinion, it's blown up. It's still very much in its amateur days, so we're 8 years in now. They're trying to professionalize it more and more, and they've got this thing now called the Elite 15, which is the best in the world, the 15 best in the world, and that's what I'm currently in for a couple of divisions. So there's the singles divisions, and then there's the doubles divisions. So me and James, my doubles partner, we've had the world record for the doubles in the past, but it's been now broken. We're going to try and reclaim that. And then with the Elite 15, I'm still working on that. But we're in the top 15 in the world. But at the end of the day, it's more of an endurance sport. It's still a strength and endurance, but it's more of an endurance sport. And people probably peak around kind of like 35 to 40, which means it's perfect for yourself. You've still got time, which do you know is super important to know. You know, there's some sports out there where, you know, people peak a lot early and they think it's always too late. Whereas Hyrox, it is generally like anyone can train for it and anyone can do it. And they do have different, so many categories that literally anyone can compete. So it's a pretty cool space to be in. And they do want to get it into the Olympics for 2032. I don't know if that's going to happen. We'll find out next year, but that's the goal. And for me, the top of kind of like the dream would be to be an Olympian. So that's hopefully through Hyrox. That'd be incredible.
How old are you?
I am 27 at the moment.
Plenty of time. 8 years to peak. 8 years to peak. And how did you get into Hyrox originally? What was your background?
So I trained at a gym that was a hybrid style gym. So I coached classes, and basically hybrid style back in the day basically meant like CrossFit style workouts, but without the complex movements. So without snatches, without squat cleans. Instead, we used to deadlift, bench press, do pull-ups, and like combine this with the ski erg, the rower, running, and it was just dead simple things that people from a bodybuilding gym could come and do, and very low skill. And I used to coach classes and also train like this. So when Hyrox came around, I did my first Hyrox. A friend just said, come and try it out. And I naturally was good at it. I won my age category. And then I thought, if I put my mind to this, I might actually do okay with this. Mm-hmm. So that's what I did. 12 weeks later, I broke my age group world record for the Open. This was back in 2023. And then since then, it's kind of just evolved and become more and more serious. And I like to educate people as well on Hyrox. And I still think there's a bit of a gap in the market with the education side of it, but more and more people are educating now on it. But back in the day, it was just as simple as like how to do a burpee properly, or the most efficient way to do a burpee for Hyrox. And people used to lap it up. People loved it. And the first time I remember going to, I think it was my second Hyrox, and I'd start putting out this education on Instagram, and people would come up to me after the race and think, I actually used that technique in my race and it improved my time. And I felt way better. And I thought, I'm on something here. Like, I feel good for educating people because that's the whole reason I coach.
Yep.
To improve people's times or improve people's lives. Like, I always say this, but no one got into the gym, no one got into shape and then regretted it. Like 100%. So, I found kind of my niche. I could perform, but I could also educate, and I could just combine them, and then it's just snowballed.
It's funny where you sort of decided, you found out that your passion sort of made a purpose, and then that sort of evolved, and that's complemented you as an athlete as well, because past our generation working obviously now in Hyrox, and one of the faces of Hyrox, I would say for sure as well. Like look at me, for instance, as a bodybuilder, like when I used to think about and just sort of see Hyrox or what is that and coming through, it's like, and then your face was there as well as a big part of that. So it's like definitely influencing and sharing the Hyrox name across the masses is a big part of what you've been a part of and able to achieve. And I suppose the reason we want to chat, obviously, is just to have a little sit down, which I appreciate more than anything, brother. Gives me a chance also to share with my small world what's going on with me and the changes I've made to my training and pursuit of what being a professional athlete means or will mean. But what was your background before Hyrox?
So before Hyrox, I growing up in school, I played like Sunday league football, like amateur football, and then I also ran athletics, so middle distance athletics, but was never any good. And then just enjoyed going to the gym and trying to get big with my mates. So we used to, go train push pull legs or
It's like bodybuilding.
yeah, literally bodybuilding. That's how I started, and I think I'd recommend doing a few years of bodybuilding to anyone out there, because you learn the fundamentals of you could say life, really. You basically, what you're doing to your muscles is you're stressing your muscles. You're then, so that's the adaptation. You're then feeding them nutrition and then giving them recovery, and they get bigger, they get stronger, and you rinse and repeat in that. And that is literally life. Like whatever it is, whether it's a job, it works exactly the same. Your muscles, your fitness, what you need to do, you need to stress, whether that's learning, you need to then give the nutrients that you need and the time. And then you need to rest and recover and go again.
And be consistent.
Yeah, and be consistent and keep doing that over and over again. So it teaches you to work hard. And like I say, it just teaches you intensity as well. Which, the ability to push. And when times are tough, when times aren't going your way, you still go to the gym. When you're not feeling it, you still go. And that's what
I think it also teaches you delayed gratification, which is super important as well.
Yeah, for
the
sure.
whole point of, especially in today's society, obviously we live in an Instagram, social media world where it's like we need that instant sort of,
everyone wants to be like a quick fix millionaire, or get to the top of the sport like within a time that you just simply can't do it. Like, it's so quick.
So the whole point of, like, I suppose bodybuilding for me as well was the same. Was the point was, okay, cool. So if I can just be consistent over time, then I'm going to win. And the win was building a better body. You know what I mean? For me back then. But then the payoff for that was obviously, well, then I applied those principles to business, to life, to family, to relationships, to spirituality, to, finances, and that same aspect of, the discipline and showing up and adapting to stress and whatever else, it carried over into so many other areas, which was super cool, and is one of the great things about what bodybuilding was to me, and taught me over time. But then, so from what you're saying, obviously you're in the gym doing bodybuilding, push pull legs. I imagine started running at some point as well.
Yeah. So like running alongside this, so I was always part of like an athletics club. I used to do cross country in the winter, track in the summer, and I just genuinely, like, there were two different groups. So I had my friends in the gym, and these guys were different to the guys that I used to run with, and I just enjoyed going to both. I enjoyed having two circles, and I felt good. I felt like I was in like a good shape because of it, because I could probably eat what I wanted when I was younger. And we're talking like 15, 16 here, when doing all this. But like, when I look back at it, I think I was building such a great base without even thinking about it. And I think that's what it's all about. It's creating a base for bodybuilding, especially. Like, if you build muscle when you're younger, in your teenage years, you're gonna have that muscle for life. Like, your muscle memory is something amazing, and in your early years, like if you get strong, you're not really going to use that, and it's so much easier to keep hold of it once you've got it. Same with fitness. If you build a big engine when you're young, if you look at any professional endurance athlete in the world, they've just had more time doing the thing than you. So whether it's cycling, these guys have been cycling since they were 5-6 years old. Whether it's swimming, professional swimming, they're in there 4 hours a day since 5-6 years old, and they've been swimming and they've put in more hours than you. It's exactly the same with anything. So you're just building a base, but I'd always do something that you enjoy doing. Even football to an extent. Like I played football, and if you're playing football for 3-4 hours a day, how much zone 2 work that is, how much sprinting, running, and it's just knocking around with your mates. Like it's all base building and fitness, and it's now paying off in something that I never thought would be possible. So I'm just like a standard normal lad from the north of Manchester, north of England, sorry, that has evolved into doing this Hyrox thing, and it's pretty cool. I love it.
I think that something cool is that a lot of people out there probably think, like, to be good at Hyrox, you must be a runner, right? And I suppose I'm sitting here sort of, or hopefully I'll be proof that to be decent at Hyrox, to achieve, you know, a sub 60 and to have success there, you don't need to have running as your background, if that makes sense. Because it definitely wasn't mine. Up to 6 weeks ago, I had never run at all. And so now thinking like 6 weeks later, I think last week I did, well, in the last 7 days from yesterday, I did almost 70 Ks worth of running.
Wow, that's incredible.
Know? And yeah, it's definitely breaking that, I think, the thought process, or breaking that stereotype of Hyroxers are all runners. Yeah. I think that you have to become a runner to do well at Hyrox for sure as well. But it doesn't have to be your, you know, where you started your fitness journey. What would you say to that?
No, for sure. If you look at Alexander Ronkovic, he's just broken the world record in Hyrox at the last major. His background was professional swimming, but he was trying to become a professional swimmer. He spent 15 years trying to become a professional swimmer, didn't make it, and then made the transition to Hyrox a number of years later. So it doesn't have to be running specific. I think, like I say, it's really important to have a base aerobically, but in strength as well. And you can come from either of these backgrounds, and you know, as long as you're working on your weaknesses. So for example, your weakness will be running at this point because you're super strong, you know how to push a sled. If you get the right training and become efficient at running, then anything's possible. And that's what I love about Hyrox is you look at the Elite 15, you look at the top 15 athletes in the world, and you think they're all going to have the same upbringing, they're all going to be exactly the same, they're going to have the same training program. Every single person in that Elite 15 has a different training program and trains completely different. And
do you think they've nailed one of the common things in bodybuilding is what's the perfect split, or what's the perfect like nutrition, and what's the perfect all these things? And bodybuilding's been around since, let's say, the 30s and 40s, so 80 something years, 90 years. They probably still haven't figured it out, but have they figured out yet what the perfect training style and split is for Hyrox?
And the answer is no. There is common grounds with all the training programs. You know, progressive overload as bodybuilding, progressive overload is one of the fundamentals that a training program needs to have. There needs to be hard days, easy days, but no one's come up with the perfect recipe for a training program for Hyrox yet. And I don't think we'll see one for a while, just because there's so many components of Hyrox and there's so many ways that you can train for it. But that is the beauty of it. You know, you've got some guys running 50 kilometers per week in the Elite 15. You've got some people that are running 150 kilometers per week. You've got people that are training 10 hours a week in the Elite 15. You've got people that are training 25 to 30 hours a week in the Elite 15. Like, it's so broad and so crazy at the moment, and it will narrow down and it will get more specific, but there's not one shoe fits all, and that's the beauty of it. And I think the reason why there's not one shoe fits all is because everyone is from different backgrounds. No one was born and raised to do Hyrox. Everyone has come from a different sport because it is so new. So like, everyone's got different weaknesses, everyone's got different strengths, so the training programs are going to be different, and that's the cool thing about it.
Same with bodybuilding in terms of like strength, and one of our strengths and weaknesses. You start off here, you got your strengths, got your weaknesses, and over time you try and sort of like balance those out, I suppose, which is the same with Hyrox, to be well-rounded.
So it'd be exactly the same with bodybuilding. Would be like, you know, the perfect proportions of muscle size. Like, if you feel like you need to bring a certain muscle up, you're probably going to prioritize that more, whether it's at the start of a session or whether it's, you know, more frequently. Yeah. Obviously, you're the expert on this, but that'd be exactly the same with weaknesses with your Hyrox game.
And obviously, you're not just one of the best athletes in the world with Hyrox, you're one of the most respected coaches as well. So how do you coach and program for Hyrox? What's your sort of philosophy there?
So coaching, I will assess, you know, someone's background. And then I'll then focus. I'll just think like strategically, what will improve their time the fastest. And if say for example, if they're really struggling on the running, then we're going to prioritize running. I'm a huge fan of, say if we have a 12-week block, the first 6 weeks we're going to really focus on our weaknesses, and we're going to focus on our strength and our endurance separately, and we're going to focus on moving properly within this time period as well. So there'll be no like real hardcore simulations, Hyrox simulations in this period. It'll be strength sessions, and it'll be running sessions, and then it'll be technique sessions. And then, because what I think this allows is, it allows us to think properly about what we're doing, how we're moving, so we can perfect the correct technique. Because everyone knows, like, as soon as you're fatigued, as soon as you're tired and you're doing something new, everything goes out the window, and you're just trying to get through that session. And you don't have enough time to think about it. Like, if you think about what Hyrox is, it's an efficiency race. You want to get through that race spending the least energy that you can. And the way to do that is to become the best mover on the field. So that's what we need to focus on within these first 6 weeks. And what we need, like I said, is time to actually think about what we're doing. And then we get close to the race, and we need to be race specific. We need some race experience. So this is where I'd start recommending doing a simulation, once every 2 weeks, once every 3 weeks. You probably do 2 simulations. If you're doing a 12-week block, probably 2 simulations before your actual race, just to know what it feels like. But you're having kind of game day workouts where it's mimicking a Hyrox race. It might not be for the amount of time a Hyrox is, but you're mimicking that kind of workout once a week. And we're getting used to, familiar to running under fatigue, doing the exercises under fatigue, because again, that feels completely different. But you've got to start with perfecting the technique. So first 6 weeks, all about getting strong, getting fast, perfecting the technique of the Hyrox exercises. And then the next 6 weeks, putting it all together, because that completely feels different. So that's how I like to coach. I do travel everywhere with my coach, and
my coach as well.
Yeah, your coach as well, Jonathan Buller, which is a great guy. And I knew, like, I'm never going to say I'm the best coach in the game. Hyrox has been around not very long at all. No one is a professional in coaching for Hyrox. No one is the best coach out there. So I actually took John on because he'd had 15 years within the CrossFit space, and CrossFit is very similar to Hyrox. He knows how to move well. It's got a couple of the same kind of, it is very similar. It's probably the closest sport to Hyrox. So I took on John. It was local to me. I know that anything that he doesn't know today, he'll know by tomorrow. And I love that work ethic that he has. And I've joined forces with him, so we kind of coach together now with my clients. Obviously, he has his separate coaching businesses as well, but I thought 2 people make a better coach than 1 person. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
I don't think there's anything out there that exists as such as the perfect coach. I think that, like, for each individual, there can be like the better coach, depending on, obviously, you have to have a certain number, like, base knowledge, obviously. I think personally as well, I like people I work with to have some results within that field as well, to know what it feels like. Yeah. Like with bodybuilding, I think it's better to work with someone who's at least done like a prep, because you understand how it feels at 2 weeks out, at 4 weeks out, at 6 weeks out, what you go through.
So kind of like walking the walk. Is that a must for you?
Must for me in terms of, yes, not like absolutely. So you were the Michael Jordan of the Hyrox as an example, or the Jake Dinner of the Hyrox, but you understand what it feels like to be in a race. You know what I mean? You understand what it feels like to be out of bodybuilding prep, because I just think that, like, then you're more empathetic with your clients in terms of how they feel going through that process as well. But then also just to know, okay, this is what it takes in real world application, because, they say 1 day in the trenches is worth 1,000 days in the books. I believe that as well. So when you feel it, when you've experienced it, you can actually, I think, apply the knowledge better, but also relate to the person you're working with better as well. And then you have to get on with your coach. Your coach, I think, should, you guys should connect on some level and be able to bounce ideas off each other, which is really important. And then if you can get those elements right, then that's the perfect coach for you. Not necessarily the perfect coach, but the perfect coach for you as an individual. And that can change from person to person, obviously, as well. There's some people out there who are amazing coaches you might not get on with, and so it's not the right person for you. It's never going to gel, if that makes sense. I just wanted to ask the question, how does nutrition feed into Hyrox with you? Because there's a lot of times with coaches that I see that I've just done some research on and looking out there, it's sort of like, oh, well, they care about nutrition at race day, but before that, sort of like, well, eat to sort of how you feel. What's your, I suppose, philosophy and approach with nutrition?
My philosophy is you need to assess your power to weight ratio, and you need to get this dialed in before, or if it's a problem, you need to get this dialed in. So when I say power to weight ratio, that's a really, really polite way of saying if you're overweight and for Hyrox, then if you take away the weight, then you're going to get better. That's just science.
That's something I'll learn, yeah.
if you're feeling too skinny, then you're going to have to put on weight, and that's going to improve your power to weight ratio. So and then a lot of people are kind of in this middle where they've done that, that they're feeling in good shape, and then personally, I feel like it's always fueling for performance, within reason. So obviously, if you're a little bit skinnier and you need to put on weight, you need to be in a calorie surplus, and you need to track your calories, and you need to, until you get to the weight that your ideal racing weight, then you need to be on it and you need to be dialed in. Same if you're overweight and you need to drop weight. But as soon as you're at kind of like race weight, then we need to be in maintenance calories, but we need to be, the importance is fueling our sessions and being on it around our sessions. For me, that is the most important thing. The more sessions that we can attend where we've controlled the variables of you having a good session, and this is rocking up to your session hydrated, making sure we're carbed up and we're fueled. If you're on the back foot if you're not doing these already. So if you're rocking up to a session and you're tired, like you're not going to perform your best. And sometimes we can't help this, but most of the time we can. Like, you know, there's simple things that we can get right to make sure that the session at least starts off right and goes as well as it can. And the more sessions that we have that are successful, the better we're going to get.
I think that gives you obviously more data as well. And you can just apply that data again and again and again.
For sure. So
history, success leaves clues is one thing that I like to say as well. So it's like when you have that data to look back on, then you can sort of know what works. And that might change, or at least it gives you a base to sort of work from as well.
Yeah. So fueling around sessions, especially so pre-session, post-session, let's get the nutrition in. Let's start that recovery process as quickly as possible. So carbohydrates to replenish glycogen stores, proteins to start recovering the muscles from the hard intense
Protein
work that you've just done, protein synthesis, and then rest. But like, if like, you know, some people just say, you know, eat or feel. I would if you're okay, if you know roughly. I feel like you need the experience before you eat or feel. You need to know what it feels like to eat your maintenance calories. I'm not saying track all the time, but track for a week or two. Yeah. Like you would say, track for a week or two. You know roughly the portions that you should be eating to maintain your weight, and then we can then go off feel because we know roughly how much we should be eating.
One thing different to bodybuilding is like we would wake up and we're normally associated with any cardio being fasted. You know what I mean? Yeah. So because we're going to burn more body fat as an example. Yeah, so a big change for me is obviously to say, no, well, hang on a second. If I've got a big session coming up, which is cardio or endurance based, I still need to fuel that session.
So for me, and I've learned this quite recently, if you train fasted, you're putting extra stress on your body and you're increasing the chance of injury. So yes, if you're doing fasted cardio and you're in a bodybuilding setting where you're doing low intensity, steady state, and you're walking incline on a treadmill or spinning your legs on a bike,
less risk involved.
It's less risk involved than pushing a heavy sled where you know your Achilles could snap or you could cramp your calf or something like that. So like we need to go into every session with the least stress on our body as possible, and that means being fueled. You want a happy body going into each session. Just think of it like that. So we don't want to be tired. We want to be hydrated. We want to be fueled, and that way we're going to minimize chance of injury. And that for me is the priority over like you say, the fat adaptation and that the the burning fats, which there is science around. You can become more fat adapted when doing fasted cardio. So basically, when we're in a session, you burn more fats. But for Hyrox, the intensity that we need for Hyrox, you're never going to be able to get into a state where you're using 100% fats. You need carbohydrates.
And I think in those cardio sessions, you burn 1,000 calories sometimes. So it's like
it's brutal.
Need to fuel it as well. But it's a slightly different approach. But I think the fundamentals remain the same. And ultimately, deficit and surpluses, these will depend on, again, your power to weight ratio and what you need to be. Which is it's super interesting for me now to relearn some of that stuff from what I was used to. But then also super exciting because then I can reapply that to clients and understand from a different aspect how they feel. And knowledge is power. Knowledge and then applying is super, super cool. I was going to, before we wrap up, Jake, I was going to ask if you had sort of, 3 main tips for anyone, looking to make a switch to Hyrox or to try a Hyrox competition. What would those 3 tips or pieces of advice be?
First of all, I'd say focus on the Hyrox exercises. A lot of people, they start training for Hyrox and they're like, oh, I know how to do a burpee. So they don't do any burpees until race day. But actually just practicing all the Hyrox exercises, you are going to get so much more efficient and you're going to make ground just by getting efficient at them exercises. So that'd be number 1. Just be specific. Like you would be, to get better at football, you need to play football.
Yep.
That's as simple as it is. Secondly, I'd say get strong and fit separately and don't think that you need to do every session really fatigued. Yes, a race does require running under fatigue, but we don't need to do that in every session.
Sure.
And then thirdly, I'd say, like I said, probably the fueling for performance. Take your mindset away from, in this session, I'm going to burn 1,000 calories and that's my only aim. How many calories I burn within a session? You want to think about the data on the screens, how fast you're skiing, how fast you're rowing, how fast you're running, and think about performance and fueling for performance, nutrition. So both performance in the terms of the gym and performance in terms of nutrition, over like weight and power to weight ratio and aesthetics and things like that. So that would be my 3 top tips. And enjoy it. Like it's
number 1.
Cool. It's cool as fuck. So yeah, enjoy it.
Well, look, again, obviously a big shout out to your sponsors for bringing you over to Australia. Thank you so much. Represent 24/7 Red Bull and BPN.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Like I said, thank you guys for allowing me to do that. But thank you for hosting us, guys, because you've been incredible. Mike, your wife T, you've genuinely made
She's
us feel
the heart
like
and soul of it all.
Yeah, you've made us genuinely feel like family, and there's not many places in the world that you come to and you get made feel like that. So thank you. And like I say, I preach this gym is the coolest gym ever. I said to you the first time I walked into here, I wish I wasn't doing a Hyrox just so I could go and use all the bodybuilding equipment.
Like a kid in a candy store.
Yeah, it is. Like this is what I dreamt of when I was younger. So
we'll have to bring one to England. We'll get Rep involved and we'll set up factory next door to them.
Let's go.
But look, next time we'll do this on your home turf. I hope.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll stay in touch.
Always welcome.
And we really appreciate you coming out here and spending time with us. So thank you, and good luck this weekend. Bring home
the gold.
I'll see you on the track.
Amazing. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Jake.